Welcome back, Troglodytes, to the Trogly's Guitar Show. Today we have a Government Series ES335. Before we talk about this one, just a quick little update here. I am going to start writing on my website again, so if you think I don't talk quick enough, or if you just need a quick reference for all the great information I pack into these videos, you can now visit my website, troglysguitarshow.com. But on to today's episode. The Government series has to be one of my favorite ones because it's just the biggest brother finger to the government that Gibson could have done. So a little bit of backstory with that. On August 24th, 2011, that is the big famous raid. It wasn't the only raid that ever happened, but it's the biggest one that caused all this controversy. So the government came in, confiscated pallets of wood, even completed guitars, also including some electronic files, under grounds that the Lacey Act was violated. The then CEO of Gibson claimed that it was just politically motivated and they were using the same woods as many other manufacturers, but they didn't get raided. But whatever the true story is, Gibson ended up paying a $300,000 fine as well as a $50,000 donation to the National Fish and Wildlife Association. But after paying those fees, they did get most of their wood back. So in order to really stick it to the man, what Gibson did is they created a special run of guitars called the Government Series. And this happened in 2013. The first run was done in a government gray finish. It looks just like this one. They have special pickguards that read Government Series on them. They came in a sweet currency green finished case with black interior. And funnily enough, they decided to put the Dirty Fingers Plus pickups in there as another nudge to the government. But besides the special finish and special case, what made these things special is the rosewood fretboard on this front of instruments was from the returned materials. So it's not the whole guitar, it's just the fretboard, but that's kind of what makes these a special place in Gibson history. And as always, people could get behind dissing the government, so Series 1 sold incredibly well. So well, later in the year they introduced a Series 2. And this time they came in a government tan finish. It's not quite as good as gunmetal gray in my opinion, and instead of a cool case, they just gave you a regular one. But you still got the certificate of authenticity with Henry's signature on it. So then the series was done. They all sold well, they all became instant collectibles. Obviously Series 1 is generally more collectible than Series 2 and surfaces to the market less often. Hey. Where does the 335 come in though? That wasn't part of those. This thing has always confused me. I didn't necessarily think I would ever buy one of these because it was the most expensive of the run. I believe brand new they're like $28.99, whereas the other ones were about $1,000. The 335s came along in 2015. Now, I'm not sure if that's because the government just returned some additional wood and they decided to do this out of the Memphis shop, whereas the other ones were Gibson USA. But overall, it's the same story on these. You have a returned rosewood fretboard on them, and they stylized this one after Series 1. We even have the return of the currency green case. The only thing electronics-wise that makes these different from the other government series is these have Dirty Fingers pickups. They're not the Plus version. Though you'd be hard-pressed to tell the difference just by looking at them because, you know, they still have the writing on the bottom bobbin. And this one, unlike the other four, is based off of a true 335. It's not like a 335 Studio, it's not stripped down and bare. This is the highest end Government Series 1 you could buy. The other ones did not have binding, whereas this one does. You might not see it at first because it's black, but when you have this thing in person, it's just so beautiful. It's got a nice dark grungy vibe to it almost. And same thing with the neck. From far away, you don't see the binding, but up close, there you go, black binding. But this one also featured a semi-gloss finish. And the best way to describe that is it's like a mix between satin and a proper gloss. So it's not completely bare feeling, but it's not, you know, super shiny either. but it does that same whole super polish up thing just by your arm resting on it. You can see that in areas right here on this example, and the whole entire neck has been played into a nice polish on this one as well. I haven't reviewed many 335s on my channel. I think this is like the second one I've had. The other one was a natural finish. I actually really enjoyed this guitar. I personally like the darker colors. I mean, the Dirty Fingers pickups, they were a little bit hotter than I probably would have liked, but I still thought this thing sounded really good. Once we throw it on the bench and get all those measurements, you're gonna find that the neck is a little bit slimmer, less wide, but not like super small or anything. But the profile itself, the depth is very slim, but at the same time, it's very rounded. So this was just an all-around comfortable guitar. Even Mike said this thing was special. He really was digging this one. And I felt like doing a little bit of rockabilly on it as well. So let's go ahead and hear how this one sounds, and then we will throw it on the workbench to take a look at its individual parts. With the instrument all taken apart here, we can see it interestingly has dirty finger pickups in it. The proper term for these pickups is actually dirty fingers with an S, even if you just have one. So it's kind of interesting that the label's differing from that. Date coded to 7/10/15, as is the neck pickup. And the thing with dirty fingers is, look, double pole pieces. And that's why both rows are adjustable.
Here's what our pickup cavities look like. You have a nice long neck tenon right there. You can see the mahogany meets the maple body. And in the bridge pickup cavity, you can start to see the semi-hollow chambering here. But the top, back, and sides of this instrument is actually a maple poplar maple sandwich. You can kind of see those seam lines right there if you look right at the edge. I don't have tons of experiences with ES335, so that's kind of like new territory for me to learn. The bridge on these is interesting. What does it look like? It looks like an ABR1, right? No, it's not. This is a Tone Pros AVR2. And what's interesting about this is, yeah, it looks like an ABR1. Is this a replaced part? No, these are actually stock. It is a locking bridge. You see this right here? You adjust that using an Allen key to lock it to the posts. But what boggled my mind even further are the tailpiece posts. You see here we have our typical slotted screw, but notice you also have that circle in the center. This is a locking tailpiece. This little bit just comes off like that. This is what locks the tailpiece onto the post. And the tailpiece itself is just your standard advanced plating incorporated version. And it is full weight. These are the two features that surprised me the most that I was not expecting. You have your nice black bonnet style knobs, 3-way toggle selector switch, and output jack on the front. Inside the F-hole, you'll have the model, ES335, almost looks like they wrote 55 there accidentally, and the limited edition number, 129 of 300. Only other spec thing to go over here is this is a semi-gloss finish. It's not quite satin, it's not quite full gloss, but it acts like a satin finish. You see right here where your arm is resting, it's naturally been polished into a higher gloss. So if you take everything off and really go to town on this thing, you could have a spectacular looking 335. I mean, you might as well at this point since it's done it in so many areas. The fretboard is what makes this guitar famous. Once again, it is the confiscated rosewood that has been used on this run of instruments. You've got some very light fret wear on this example, mainly just in like the first 5 frets. Nothing you'll have to worry about right away though. We have the typical 24 3/4 inch scale with a 1.66 inch nut width, which increases to 2 inches at the 12th. First fret neck depth of 0.8 inches. And by the 12th fret, it's at 0.9, so a fairly thin neck. The nut itself is black in color and made of corian. This is what your truss rod channel should look like. Plenty of life left in this truss rod. But this is one of my favorite features of the 2015 ES lineup. They get this little F-hole on the truss rod cover. Now, it's not like a silk screen that you can wipe off. It's not really a pure engraving either. If you look at it, it's just slashed like that. It's kind of got a texture to it. I love that. It's very cool. And also has these wider white bevels to it, which is interesting. As far as the headstock goes, you have your wheat stack / crown and the Gibson mother of pearl logo. As far as the back of the instrument goes, we don't have too much going on here besides the whole finish turning into a gloss from heavy usage. But how do you get to the control cavity? You have to fish it through the F-hole. So that's why it's more expensive to work on semi-hollow guitars, because it takes a lot of patience to do that. The strap buttons on this one have been replaced to Schallers. And here you can see the neck has also been played into like a heavy gloss. It would look awesome if you just finished off the rest of the guitar like that. In the back of the headstock, we have our Grover tuners as well as our serial number. This particular example weighs 8 pounds, 3.1 ounces.
Now that we know what this guitar is made of, let's go ahead and review its condition. If you've ever wanted one of these government 335s, but you didn't feel like paying $3 grand for them, this is player's grade. It's not going to be as expensive as the other ones, but there's quite a bit of wear and tear to go over here. Again, this finish is kind of more akin to a satin one, so it'll show light marks, nicks, and dings very easily. This one, you can see there's like a polished area that's like a dash of a line. My guess is there was like some sort of clip-on something on there that just kind of kept rubbing and polished it up. The frets do show some minor wear in like the first 5 frets, but nothing that you're going to have to worry about right now. I will suggest a professional setup on this one. I was happy with the way it played, so you might be happy as well, but I suggest that for every guitar you buy online anyways. But you've got some light nicks and dings on the finish here. as well as those polished up areas as I was talking about. I think at this point you'd be safe just to go ahead and get this like professionally buffed into a beautiful gloss finish. That's what I would probably do if I was going to keep this thing, because then it would remind me of the gunmetal gray charcoal metallic Les Paul Customs. Now the thing with this pickguard is when it came to me, it was taken off. Somebody liked playing this one without it on, and I could see why. It's kind of got a cool vibe. But it was in the case, so I went ahead and reinstalled it. But this is not the original bracket, and it's not actually professionally attached. It's just kind of taped to the back of the pickguard with some painter's tape. So it works. It doesn't flop around or anything, but if you rest your hand on the pickguard, you know, one day it might come off, so just keep in mind you might want to buy a proper bracket for it. You're probably not going to be able to see this, but there is some very light finish checking to the guitar. You can kind of see it by like the bridge, a little bit right here. I mean, it's not too bad, but if you get it in the angle just right, you can just barely see it. Back of the headstock, serial number 12, looks like 035710 with a made in 2015 stamp. Once again, very lightly done. Now, along the headstocks, you've got a pretty sizable ding right here, as well as on the other side. But I would say this one that you're looking at while you're playing is the worst one. But thankfully, no breaks, cracks, or repairs. And I love that the finish is all glossy on the neck. It really gives it a nice, comfortable feel. And it's even. It's not like some spots are glossed over, whereas others aren't. It's all glossy. The strap buttons have been replaced with Schaller strap locks. And same story with the back of this instrument. Many polished areas just where it's been rubbing against you. So, I mean, if you're looking for a player's grade 335 or just one that's kind of already stood the test of time and proven itself to be a great player, I really do highly suggest this guitar. There's something special to this one. And I don't say that about every guitar I sell. I mean, most guitars that I have, they're good. But there's always a few examples that really stand out. And for me, this is one of them. Even though I really haven't had that many 335s, I know a good guitar when I play one. Under Blacklight here, since it's not a full gloss finish, it's not going to glow a super lot, but we do have the glowing that I would expect to see. On the back, it looks like there is a very, very, very slight reaction to like a stand or something right here. And right here you can see a lot of sweat has absorbed into the finish. It's kind of in one of those super glossy areas too. This kind of also helps you visualize where it's heavily glossed over. On the neck, there's a small stand rash mark. You don't see it in normal lighting, but it is there under Blacklight. You've got some sweat absorbed into the finish, so the guy must have done a lot of chords here. But thankfully, no breaks, cracks, or repairs. And our headstock is also looking good here. This instrument still retains its original currency green case. It's just labeled Gibson on the outside. These things are so cool. I'm so glad that they kind of reissued it for this 2015 335. But you've got 4 latches on the front, but none on the back. This almost kind of has like a Joker vibe. Imagine if the interior was like a dark purple color. That'd be cool. And here's what your COA looks like. It's a large paper one. They were numbered out of 300. This one's 129. And here's what this one looks like. But as far as the case goes, it protects the guitar well. Good heel support, double neck rest. Not too much more to go over. If you think you might be interested in being the next owner of this Gibson Government 335, feel free to check out that link in the description that will take you to the Reverb for sale ad. Thank you Troglodytes for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Check out the website article, and we will see you tomorrow on the next episode. Take care.